Welcome, my friends, back to Beyond the Well, where forgotten histories and untold legends awaken. I never expected to find that well, hidden deep in the woods behind my house. But when I touched its sacred water, I saw more than my own reflection. I saw another world. A world shaped by light and shadow, by heroes and tyrants, by choices that still echo through time. Join me as I uncover the stories of Aldarion that lie beyond the well. The Ballad of Nalen Myrris, Episode 2, Embers of Truth. The forest didn't speak, not anymore. Branches clawed at Nalen's face as he crashed through the underbrush, panting, sweating, his cloak soaked from 2 nights of relentless rain. Mud clung to his boots, heavy and unwilling, yet he didn't stop. He couldn't. His mind wouldn't let him, not with every memory screaming and every breath tasting like ash. The farther he got from the Myrris estate, the more the silence pressed in. A different kind of silence, one that mocked him, one that whispered of everything he had lost, all of it, gone, stolen, shattered. And what had been left behind? False accusation, a home soaked in betrayal. It all played out in his mind, the whole line of events from the last several years. Lies spun like a fine cloak by the Morrowings, now wrapped tightly around the neck of every man and woman who once smiled at him. Nalen's teeth clenched as he stumbled over a tree root and slammed against a trunk. He stood there, breathing hard, forehead pressed to the bark. "Lies," he growled to no one. But the forest offered no comfort, only the chirp of distant birds and the snap of branches in the wind. He was alone, utterly and completely. For the next 2 days he kept moving, north, always north, away from the place where his father's body still lay entombed beneath in the family crypt. And that hurt perhaps the most, his own father shunning him in the final minutes of his life. He passed a pair of travelers on the road near sunset on the second evening, an old man and his daughter riding in a slow-moving cart. Nalen nodded as he walked by, saying nothing, pulling his hood low. But as he passed, he caught some of their conversation. "Said it was poison. Slipped into his wine, right at supper," the older man said. The girl gasped. "Poisoned his own father?" "Aye, that's what they're saying at least. Always were strange, those two. Argued all the time. Proud blood, mind you. Pride always turns to rot." They didn't recognize him, but the words struck just the same, each syllable a splinter lodged under the skin. Poison, that much he did believe. He could see Vairiel poisoning him, first in his mind and then in his body. Now she'd cleverly shifted the truth to blame him. The anger built in him. It was dark and ugly. He wanted nothing more than to destroy her and watch her wretched family die. He kept walking. By the 3rd night, hunger gnawed at his belly and his limbs moved like waterlogged branches. A flickering lantern in the distance pulled him forward. An inn, perched at the crossroads, 2 chimneys puffing smoke like beacons. He hesitated outside, debating the risk, but warmth and bread were worth a chance. He hadn't seen a patrol in miles. The place was called the Sooty Fox, and it was nearly full. The smell of roasted duck and spilled ale wrapped around him as he stepped inside. A bard played a slow tune in the corner, and laughter danced above the clatter of the plates. No one paid him any mind, just another weary traveler with too many miles behind him. He ordered a bowl of stew and sat near the fire, his back to the wall. His cloak hid most of his face, but he listened, always listened. At the next table over, a group of farmers shared mugs and gossip. "And he didn't even cry, not once," said one, shaking his head. "Stood over his father's casket like it was a blasted tree stump." "They say it was always like that," another chimed in. "Cold, hard. His father kept him in line for years." But once the old lord weakened, well, you know. The third leaned in with a grin. Poison, that's what I heard. A real slow kind works over weeks, and now he's run off like a coward. I heard he struck Kalia, the first said. Thorion's ward, poor girl, escaped into the night. You know what that means. Laughter. Na's tankards clinked. Nalen stood. He didn't know why. Maybe it was the hunger. Maybe it was the fire licking behind his ribs. Maybe he was just sick of the silence. You don't know anything. The words dropped into the room like iron. The bard stopped playing. All eyes turned. The man who had been speaking leaned back on his chair. Beg your pardon, lad. You hurt me, Nalen said, stepping forward, lowering his hood. You speak about me like I'm not here, so speak to my face. Recognition dawned, slow and dangerous. You're him. I didn't poison my father. More silence, then a chuckle. Course not, lad. You're just out here sulking around like a hunted fox, bursting into taverns to argue with peasants over supper. Right. I loved him, Nalen said, his tone softening. And I hated how things ended, but I wouldn't kill him. Someone near the bar began edging towards the door. We all saw how you stood over his grave, said one man, like a wolf waiting to feast. Lies! Bellowed Nalen, now feeling a surge of rage building in him like a geyser. The men in the room stepped back, shocked at the ferocity Nalen showed. It's like they're saying, you're mad! Nalen stopped. He had a sudden flash of a thought. There was nothing he could do to change their minds. In fact, he could see he was only strengthening the lies that had been well planted. He felt like a fly caught in a spider's web. Outside, he heard someone yelling, Constable! The Lord's killer is here! Chaos bloomed like wildfire. Nalen cursed, shoved past the farmers, his chair scraped, and a pair of rough men lunged at him. He ducked beneath one, kicked the other in the gut, and bolted out the door as fast as he could into the cold night. Boots thundered behind him, shouts, and then dogs. He didn't stop. Over a fence, through a narrow field, into the woods once more. The night swallowed him whole. When dawn came, Nalen sat beneath a moss-covered stone, his breath misting in the crisp air. The bruises on his ribs throbbed with each inhale, but it wasn't the pain that hollowed him. It was the truth. That nobody wanted to hear it. Not when lies were easier, not when the drama sold better in the mouths of drunkards and barkeeps. He looked north, towards the mountains. He drew his cloak tight and began the long walk north. It would be several weeks or more before he'd make it over the mountains. So he kept going, and in each small town he found the same lies. Another village, another tavern, another crowd believing what it wanted to. After nearly 2 weeks on the run, he was near complete exhaustion. At the foot of an ancient cedar, Nalen collapsed. No tears, no prayers, just breath, heavy and broken, as if his lungs themselves were tired of carrying the weight of his name. Sleep overtook him like a storm tide, swift and merciful. Nalen found himself in the darkness of night. It wasn't the comforting kind found beneath a blanket or a quiet forest. This was a suffocating shadow, thick and alive, the kind that breathes down your neck. Then he saw it, a figure, slender, tall, wrapped in torn black robes. It moved with slow purpose, each step cracking the ground beneath it. Hate radiated from it like heat from a forge. Bitterness clung to it like smoke. A sword was strapped to its back, rusted and stained, chains wrapped around its wrists. Not to bind it, but to amplify its fury like trophies of every betrayal it had ever endured. Nalen watched it, heart pounding, fists clenched. The figure stopped, turned, and looked him in the eyes. Nalen saw his own face staring back at him. Same jaw, same eyes, same small scar across the brow. But this version of him, this broken mirror, was hollow inside, a soul carved out and filled with venom. Nalen staggered back as if struck, breath stolen from his lungs. "No," he whispered. The figure raised a hand. Black flame danced across its palm. Nalen fell to his knees. The shame broke over him like a wave. Rage, grief, regret, all the things he had carried surged forward in a flood. His father, the funeral, the lies, the betrayal, how easy it had become to let the anger in, how seductive the idea of justice by fire had become. He gritted his teeth. "I didn't want this. Please, Aldarion, please help me find my way." A soft light answered. It came not as thunder or flame, but warmth, the kind felt on the first day of spring. It flowed around him, wrapping gently around the edges of his pain. And then she was there, his mother. Not as he remembered her in sickness, frail and pale. No, she shone with a radiant light, robes of white whispering as she walked, her face serene and unburdened by time. Her smile cut through the gloom like the first light of dawn. She knelt beside him, her simple presence dispelled the black flame and twisted version of Nalen that recoiled and vanished into smoke. "My son," she whispered, brushing hair from his face. Nalen could not speak, could not even breathe. Her voice broke him in ways that nothing else had. The bitterness within him began to shudder, to fracture. "You've lost much," she said, "more than any young man should bear." Tears began to well in his eyes. "They took your home, your name, your father's memory," she continued. "They tried to take your heart, but hear me now. They cannot take you. Not unless you give yourself to them." "I feel like I already have, Mother," Nalen choked out. "No, not yet." Her voice grew firmer. "But you stand at the edge, son. You must choose. Let hate carve you into a weapon of vengeance, or let it go." She placed her hand on his chest, and warmth flooded him. "You weren't made for this bitterness. You were shaped by Aldarion, and in him is peace, real peace, not found in revenge or proving the world wrong, but in believing and letting rest in you who he says you are." Her eyes shimmered. "I love you, Nalen. I always have, and I'm proud of the man you're becoming. Not because you're perfect, but because you fight to remain good, even now." He buried his face in her robes, and all his emotions that had been dammed up broke through like a river of tears. She held him, cradled him like she had when he was just a small child. Then the world shifted. The light behind her flared, and Nalen was lifted, drawn into a vision. He stood on a high cliff, older, stronger, weathered, but noble. Below him stretched a vast plain. Fires burned in the distance, but people were gathered, looking to him, awaiting him. And in the heavens above, a voice, not loud, but piercing, spoke like the rush of a river. "You are mine. I have called you. You will not be forgotten. You will be my hand in the darkness." Then the light consumed him. Nalen woke with a gasp, heart pounding. The forest was quiet, mist curling around the trunks of sleeping trees, and the sky was a light gray with the morning rays starting to pierce the darkness. Nalen sat up slowly, hand to his chest. He could still feel her touch, still hear her voice. Everything was still broken, still unjust, still dangerous. But something inside had changed. He stood, slower than before, but steadier. Then turned north again, not running, but walking. The nomad's path awaited him. Not one of survival, but of purpose. To a life unknown, yes, but to a future designed not by lies of men, but by the will of Aldarion himself. He didn't need a title. He didn't need a home. He had a purpose. He had a mission. And this time, he would carry it not with anger, but with hope. that's it for today. Thank you for coming with me beyond the well. If you enjoyed this story, please consider liking, following, or subscribing. And if you have a moment, I would love a review. Your feedback truly makes a difference. If you want to dive deeper into the well, visit beyondthewell.net for show notes, transcripts, maps, character descriptions, and much, much more. And until next time, keep seeking, keep dreaming, and keep telling your story. Bye.